I've seen a lot of founders save money with AI, but I've yet to see a ton of examples of founders making money with AI. Happy Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a challenge for you at the top. Listen to today's episode and tell me that you don't write down or think of at least 3. I wrote down 10 as I was first speaking with today's guest, business ideas that could change what you do internally or spark an entirely new business for you. Today, we're going to talk about AI, and we're going to talk about it beyond the influencers posting numbers. We're going to talk about it beyond the incredible AI startups we've seen making headlines and beyond just the toolkits that are blowing up and everybody's talking about. Here is the question for us today. How many of us are actually making or saving real money with AI workflows? Today's guest is one of those unique people who isn't just experimenting or replacing his Google searches. He is executing. And for listeners of this show, so we're going to show you exactly what he's doing. We're going to share with you 5 implementations that he's done. So today's guest is Juan Montero. He is the founder of Flowgrama. You can find the link in the notes. He builds and sells practical AI solutions for bootstrap businesses, aka listeners of the TMBA pod. In this episode, he's pulling back the curtain to show how he does it. So we're going to talk about his approach to building real-world AI implementations. We are going to talk about the specific ones that he's done, and they apply to so many businesses. And we're getting to this exciting point where, wow, the type of things we can do, the type of new businesses we can spawn, and you're going to see the examples today. We will talk about 5 specific examples. I'd love to hear yours. You know where you can email me. And for those of you joining us in Bangkok next week, you'll get to see this in person, but this conversation is the perfect warm-up. So let's dive in. My conversation with Juan Montero from Flowgrama. We've known each other for a while. Like, you've been running this e-commerce store that's done really well for you over the years. I think what strikes me about your approach is that you're not like a total software developer nerd. You're a dude who runs an e-commerce site, yet you're leveraging these tools and you're building things that might sound a little bit of intimidating to the rest of us. Why were you so attracted to this idea of automation and workflows in the early days of the e-commerce store? Well, the whole span of running the e-commerce store, which you still own and run.
Yeah, I think like what hooked me was it feels a little bit like hustling, to be honest, that you were able to grab information from one application, convert it on whatever other format that you wanted and move it to another application. That type of, you are saving these 2 minutes, you are saving 3 minutes of your day. It feels like very cool for someone who didn't have a formal background in computer science. It was like, oh man, like probably this is my opportunity to learn more about these systems without me going through another university degree or learning how to program. Eventually that happened in the future. I learned how to do some basic programming, but at the very beginning, feeling that I'm doing no coding with all these small automations and getting somehow an extra tool in my tool sets of my day-to-day, it feels great. And that's what really hooked me there.
We're going to talk about some of the stuff you're building for clients or that you're speculating, you're thinking about, you're workshopping. I'm curious, what are some of your favorites from your e-commerce store over the years that have saved you time or money?
In recent years, it's mainly about customer support. I think that we were spending a lot of time at the very beginning dealing with the tickets in the system or getting notifications or shipping international orders. Here in Taiwan, every time that we receive an international order, we needed to confirm that address, and we kind of used to spend a lot of manual time just by confirming that address or just by allowing the system letting us know that we had an international order. So before the automation, my VA, she had to go through all these orders that we got and double check manually to see if this was a local order or an international order, and then route them to different carriers. So this was taking a lot of time just for checking on that. And with very small automations, we were able to solve these type of problems. We were able not only to check the address, but also confirm the phone numbers, also to make sure that all the products that we had were available to ship and, comply with whatever regulations that the courier was asking us to double check before we were able to send this type of orders. Eventually, our knowledge base, our ticket systems, they were all connected. So onboarding any new customer support in our company was pretty straightforward because all the training was pretty much done through all these small workflows where my VA had access to. By that time, we didn't have any chatbots, but we had some type of database where it was easy to query and extract information. So she was able to reply to all these tickets without spending too much of her time.
Looking at the way you do email marketing and the way you express your operations, very structured and thoughtful, big Zapier nerd. What's changed like in 2025 with the introduction of agents and LLMs? A lot of us are using LLM to replace Google, but I think most of the audience hasn't yet used it to like replace CRM or business intelligence or like these kind of horizon opportunities. How has like the introduction of these LLMs changed the game for you?
A lot. So going back to more of the automations that I did in the past. So we were spending also a big amount of energy in growing our Instagram. It was like 6 years ago where Instagram came to Taiwan and it was booming. And we wanted to create a lot of content for Instagram. And eventually we did that. Like we went from 0 to 80K followers in a span of like 6 months. And the only way that was possible was through like very basic automations. We wanted to automate the whole process of finding what was trending, finding what do we need to generate for that image, and also create the caption. Now, by that time, we didn't have any LLMs, we didn't have OpenAI, so most of these had to be done manually. So we had a designer, we had for the post, we have a writer for the captions, and everything was like done pretty much like 80% manually. Only the posting, only changing a little bit of the syntax of what was going to be in the caption was automated. But with the introduction of LLMs, all this text generation now was able to be done automatically. I didn't have to have like a writer coming up with all these ideas. I didn't have to have a researchers coming up like with what's trending right now on Instagram. And now, like you can see, like we can even generate images through, I think like the latest one is Banana from Google.
From Gemini.
Like,
yeah.
You can pretty much do everything with all these LLMs. So it has been a huge improvement for anyone like doing marketing. Email marketing also has been like, pretty good for us. We do about like 50% of our revenue is coming from email marketing right now. And all these emails that we're writing, all the sequences that we are creating, they are all because of these automations that we have built in-house.
It's wild. If you're listening, we're going to talk about some tools here as well as business opportunities. But if you haven't yet used Google's image generator, we come from this generation where it's like all these overseas designers and 99designs.com and all this kind of stuff. I've done like multiple multi-month projects with designers, and there's still a place for that at the very high end for a brand refresh or whatever. But it just kind of blows me away. So I'm tempted to ask you this like macro question, which is when I listen to podcasts on the news, there's a lot of FUD in the West about the impact that AI will have on jobs. From your perspective as a solo bootstrapper, what do you think this technology is going to do to the job market and to business in general?
I have talked about this with like a couple of my clients, especially because I tend to also talk with a lot of their VAs, and they do see the impact of the automations. Now, the way that I reframe this is that you need to learn how to work with AI. So AI is going to replace some jobs, that's for sure. but it's going to replace the people that don't know how to work with AI. The same way that most of the people out there know how to use Google Documents or Microsoft Office, right? Then like you need to have this type of skill set. Like I know how to work with AI. I know how to use ChatGPT. I know how to have like these automations in my system so I can do things better. Because we as founder, we expect our employees to be familiar with all these tools. So our ROI, when we hire them, can, be much better, to be honest. At this point, we expect our employees to have access to these type of tools. They know how to generate text. There is no such a reason for one of your employees telling you that they don't know how to do something, because you just need to search it through one of these LLMs and the LLM is going to teach you. So there's these people that they are not adapting to these new changes. Those ones are the ones that they are going to be replaced eventually by someone who knows how to use these tools. I don't think like AI is going to come and wipe all the jobs here. No, we need people still to double check what the AI is outputting out there, to double check, adjusting the tone of whatever text that you are generating. It is not, we haven't reached to that point that we are building autonomous systems that are taking 100% of the decisions in your business for you.
One of the things that ChatGPT came out this week I wanted to touch on is the agent builder. Before we get into the business opportunities, I've had a lot of talk with founders, like the dream scenario, and we'll get into this, is like CRM for your business intelligence. There's all these applications that people are just on the tips of our tongues. It looks like ChatGPT continues to come out with product. And we're all waiting for the ads to start showing up. The affiliate links started showing up. We're all using it all day long. It's super fascinating. The news headlines this morning say OpenAI is taking a shot at Zapier by launching Agent Builder. Well, what does that really mean?
This AI agent thing, it came really fast, to be honest. I was talking about this last year, actually in DCBKK. That was one of my conclusions, that AI agents were going to be a huge part of 2025. But not even me by that time, when I was saying that, understood that these AI agents were actually going to be a huge part of our business systems. Now, one of the biggest companies out there promoting AI agents, N8N, they recently got, I think it's already, they reached $1 billion valuation.
So this is N8N. This is another company that people are saying that OpenAI and them are sort of fighting.
Yeah, kind of. They're not fighting. They are closer to Zapier. I think like they are taking a huge portion of that market, of the workflow automation market. But they were one of the first one introducing AI agents. So you were able to build these AI agents within N8N, something that you didn't have in Zapier or Make.com. And I think OpenAI already paid a lot of attention to N8N and how big their valuation is right now. And then they wanted to enter into this space. Google is also doing the same thing. Basically, they are trying to create more tools, because now it's possible to give to everyone, not people in the, tech industry, to anyone, people that are running businesses, people like in the university level, to have access to build these AI agents. And then OpenAI learned a lot when they launched their operator, which is pretty much an AI agent. It's just simply that operator was in like the 200 monthly plan. And now they wanted to, introduce a different way to build an AI agent. But I think it's like just creating the tools for the masses right now.
This is potentially interesting because I think when we look at founders, one of the frictions to us learning about this stuff might be having to learn multiple tools. So being able to go into one tool and learn it well is a way that we can accelerate our learning. Can you describe for me the difference between an LLM and an agent? From a Bootstrappers perspective, what different sorts of things can we do with an agent that we can't do with an LLM?
Okay, so an LLM, just purely like large language models, they are just the brain. They have all this information, but they don't know what to do with this information until you give them some type of instructions. Now, you do this exchange of instructions through a client. We can call it right now Claude. You can call it ChatGPT. Those are the clients. Those are somehow an agent. An agent is an LLM with memory and with access to tools, pretty much. So if we want to put this into an equation, then you can say that an AI agent is equal to an LLM with memory. Every time that you are interacting with the LLM, that's only the model. You are interacting through the platform. You are interacting through an agent, and that agent is called ChatGPT.
Now, an agent would be when it has memory plus access to a tool. So I plug in my amplifier, I give the LLM access to my amplifier, and I say, I want to play Purple Rain by Prince because it's the greatest song of all time. Can you change the amp model to set the most popular settings online for my amplifier so I get that sweet chorus sound? That would be an agent that's leveraging the LLM's information to then make a change on the amplifier.
That's correct.
And that's going to be something that people are doing, which is kind of...
That's what we're seeing everywhere. Yeah.
So the rub there, and this is kind of like how the internet rolled out, is that like the company that made my amplifier probably is going to be pretty slow to the game of like opening up their software to be able to be interacted with by my LLM. Where I might have to like crack it and make a custom integration. So like when I say this, you adjust this parameter. When I say this, you adjust that parameter. That's like a complicated integration. Whereas like these internet forward toolkits, a company like Zapier that's making API access, like it's going to be a lot easier to have your LLM interact with that. Is that basically the idea?
I think like let's go back where you are mentioning the part of integration, right? And then you brought the API part. So the integration is done through an API. In this case, if your amplifier wants to be connected to any of the tools out there in the internet, then the manufacturer of the amplifier is the responsible in creating the API and all the endpoints for that to happen. Zapier didn't create any of these endpoints. Zapier is only connecting one application with another one through an API. They are just like putting all these connections together and make it into a very pretty UI for the end user. So as long as the tool that we want to use has an API, we can connect it to our AI agent.
Are there applications where you don't need an API to have the LLM operate the software? Is it possible for the AI just to go and start clicking around and doing stuff? Or does there need to be some kind of integration there from a software perspective?
From a software perspective, you always need to have these type of integrations, endpoints, API, REST APIs. But there are going to be, and I have had this with my clients, is that there are some applications that they are using where some endpoints weren't created or simply they don't have any REST APIs. A REST API is a protocol for you to connect part of your application with another application. So let's say that we want to create a document in a Google Drive from an LLM, from the AI agent. Then if we want to do that and we give the instructions to the LLM on how to do that, the only possible way for it to create that document in your Google Drive is using the REST API from Google, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
If we don't have those endpoints, then like the system doesn't know how to create those documents or how to send an email for you. Everything that we do in Zapier, it is connected through an API.
Before we get into our list of business ideas or business applications, I'm wondering if you could list off like today's current top toolkit for entrepreneurs who are hacking this stuff together outside of the traditional LLMs. Like, if I wanted to listen to this episode and go and start playing with something, what are your top 3 things to go play with, or top few, and why?
Yeah, for me right now, I spend a lot of time in N8N. That's my go-to right now for building all my workflow automations and interacting with my AI agents.
And what does it do?
It gives you the options to go on different paths. So Zapier tends to be very linear or vertical in this case. So every time that you build different zaps, you need to go from the top to the bottom. Then you still have the options to create some different paths in Zapier. But the problem is that once you start adding like multiple paths and conditional logics, visually is very complicated to follow up. With N8N, this visual path makes more sense. It is easier to follow, to see where the data is moving at any given point, how many items you are moving through that workflow, and it visually allows you to create these complicated systems that at the end is like very easy to execute, easy to automate, and easy to debug.
Okay. N8N. Do we need anything else?
I think like for someone who wants to, for anyone actually, for any founder who wants to get familiar on how to do some AI agents and use that knowledge from Zapier or make.com, then the next step is going to be N8N.
So an LLM is a way to get information essentially from the core human knowledge base, the internet. N8N and tools in that category, and in an earlier generation, Zapier, but now we have much more capability, is a way to build virtual team members. Another way to think of that is like, instead of hiring somebody, I'm going to build a workflow that's crucial to my business, that's essentially a virtual team member that will need to be managed and updated by another team member. That's kind of your point about the way things are going. So there is another level, which is tools that help you to code. And what I like about this conversation is we're not really getting into that. We're not talking about vibe coding here, right? We're talking about...
We're talking about workflow automation, but yeah, vibe coding is, wow, amazing.
Because that's where those toolkits like Replit and stuff come in, right?
Yeah, Replit, you have Cursor, you have Windsurf. Like all these clients right now allows you to put out some very cool stuff.
And that's where we start to go wholesale. Like we're still at like the retail level in terms of like anybody listening to this can go to Make N8N and start seeing what it would be like to, quote, hire a virtual team member. But once you go down into tools like Replit, it's going to start to present you with code. So you're going to need to have like a basic understanding of how coding works.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to writers right now, like copywriters. If you are a bad copywriter and you go to any LLM and, try to come up with a piece of content, yeah, you are going to get better than average content. But you as the human, without like any good copywriting experience, you're still going to probably approve it because you feel it's good. Versus a great copywriter, he can still use an LLM and he can produce amazing piece of content. Now, similar goes to the developers and coders. If you are not like a great developer, you can still produce good results with vibe coding. But imagine if you're a great developer and you have now like your copilot, you have your digital team member that is constantly like checking on your code and your new ideas. Man, you are on steroids, to be honest. And yeah, that's where we're moving.
All right, cool. Let's dig into some ways we can make or save money. I have some written down here, but I want you to share ideas as you come along. So really what I want to do is like open our horizons together to dream of ways that we can make better businesses, bring in some more money, save some money, etc. So the first thing I wrote down is LinkedIn linchpin. This idea of auto commenting on social media posts. This sounds very scary, but it's a very real problem. I've spoken with many founders who run sizable businesses that they're getting a lot of leads every month from social media. And one of the challenges they face is that they have to live on those platforms. So they've got a business to run. They've got a big team. They're making 6 figures or more a month. And there's a lot of value put on authenticity on these platforms. And the reason is they make a lot of money doing it. The challenge is, how do you get back to everybody? So how can we leverage some kind of agent workflow to make more money on social?
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing for a couple of clients, actually. So we have built let's call it like a menu of AI agents for them. And the one that you are referring to, we just call it like the auto replier. So for these agents, what we're doing is every time that you post something and you receive a comment, the agent is going to auto reply to this comment. And they are using a couple of strategies that I feel they are pretty cool. The first one is they say it's called the golden hour. So according to the golden hour strategy, you need to reply to comments within the first hour or 2 hours after you made a post. So this is like the best time for you to trigger the algorithm and let the algorithm know that there is a new piece of content in your timeline and it needs to go viral or go to more people. So after they post that, my AI agent gets, a webhook notification that there is a new post, and every other minute it's going to check for all these comments that are entering, and we are going to, through a set of like system prompts, the AI agent is able to not only generate a reaction like, love, inside, but also generate that comment, post it, and call it a day. And the agent is doing that 24 hours 7. So it's going to be more aggressive during the golden hour, but after the golden hour, the agent's still going to be able to come, fetch for the comments from that post. If there are new comments, then reply to those comments and keep doing that for the rest of the day. What this brings as a result is that you end up having a very active post that receive like all these replies from yourself. You keep engaging with people that, are commenting in your post, and you get more exposure. So you don't need to spend time. You didn't need to put yourself in front of the computer 24 hours 7 to keep that engagement in your LinkedIn profile.
Now, one of the challenges with LinkedIn specifically is that they will ban your account if they see other IPs coming in there. This is like inside baseball for like, I've talked with a handful of people who are like, I tried to hire a VA, but then my LinkedIn account got shut down. And that sucks for me because I use LinkedIn for other stuff. And so how does the agent get around this?
We use a static IP. So this IP won't change. The second thing is that I like to do that is adding a little bit of randomness between when we are checking and fetching all this information and how fast we are replying. So all these times that you get banned is mainly because you are logging from multiple IPs at the same time. Secondly, you are too consistent that the system flag you as a bot. So you are fetching the post at the same time, you are replying at the same time, and this is triggering and raising red flags. And I think like the third part is to not go over the limits. If your account was replying or was getting like 50 comments in a day, then don't try to go and double that. Then don't try to do too much of the things that you weren't doing before, similar to how people warm up their emails, that they are not like, blasting that email address with like 50, 100 cold emails on a day. No, you need to warm up your account in LinkedIn.
We're going to have to call this episode the social media dark arts, because people are like talking about this, but we're seeing behind the scenes. It's interesting. So are these replies substantive, or are they like, hey, thanks for commenting?
No.
Okay. How do we generate this kind of reply? And is the reason this is like a quote exploit is because LinkedIn has to provide a quote posting API for other third-party integrations. So you're kind of exploiting that and using LinkedIn in a way that they don't want you to do this, I'm guessing. So then if they don't want you to do this, how are you able to do it right now?
There are APIs for that. So you can find a lot of this information in apify.com. They already have like multiple endpoints for you to post there. And it's not only like through LinkedIn. You can also do this in Threads, X, Instagram, Facebook. Although like these companies, they do protect a lot of their APIs and how do you behave within their platforms, people will still develop the endpoints and find ways to automate most of these parts. It's part of the social media game. Most of these creators too, they are using somehow automation tools to create their content, to post this content. So it is not that, we are trying to do something against, we're just like optimizing our workflow here.
There's this like dark internet theory or whatever, that it's just a bunch of bots talking to each other. We're all just watching bots on X or Facebook. What's your take on that? Like how much of these like premium creators are actually using the types of automation systems you're pointing to?
I started to work on LinkedIn maybe for the last 2 months and a half. And for all this year, I never had a LinkedIn profile. I wasn't into that platform.
Bootstrappers unite and our mutual hate for LinkedIn.
And then like I started noticing like all this boom in LinkedIn, like working on the automations. And I feel like a lot of people are like pretty much doing these auto replies, or somehow they're using like AI tools to reply to the posts. Feels like for me, you try to bring your best because it's the professional network. So everything needs to be very curated. And, people tend to over curate stuff like now with the AI, with LLM. At some point, I feel like, your theory might be right. At the end of the day,
to a lot of folks that I know that use these platforms, they've used them very authentically. Like creators are passionate about their message. They know that this is a big opportunity from a money perspective. They're concerned about their message getting out of hand. If all of a sudden there's a fake Dan on the internet replying to people that are listening to this podcast, it's a concerning thought. So how do you address that concern?
I think if you are a big profile with your audience, you are not going to do that. Your audience can know if you are original or you're just getting information from an LLM, right? So your authenticity is always going to be your brand out there. Now, if you want to apply some of that authenticity into your AI agent to reply to those comments, we can go and create a really good prompt for the system to know more about you, the way that you talk, the way that you reply. That's like step one. The second step is going to be fetch also the information of the post, not only the content of what is this post talking about, but also what other people is commenting. Because you want to, most of the time, blend in the trend, unless that's the purpose of your AI agent. If you want to be like, I want to go against the trends, then, the AI agent is going to generate a text that it goes against. And that's good. That's a strategy I haven't applied, but I think it's quite interesting if you want to get a reaction from the poster, right? But if you want to just blend in the trend and make sure that you just get a reply, get a like, and then like that's the way that I execute these type of AI agents.
How long would it take to build something like this? Someone from scratch, some kind of autoresponder that gets people, likes and thank yous within the first golden hour. What's the learning curve on stuff like this?
for a learning curve, it's going to be longer. Like I can, probably produce this like within between 15 hours to 20 hours, depending on the complexity of your workflow. But starting from scratch is going to take them longer. It's like probably 2 or 3 weeks getting familiar with the platform, getting familiar with connecting the APIs, but it's not impossible. Anyone has access to LLM. They can do a ChatGPT. They can ask questions there, and ChatGPT is going to guide you through the process.
One of the interesting ideas you walked me through is something I just wrote down as executive reporter. So this concept that at any moment in the company, you could get a detailed or overview of what's happening in your company. Can you talk about some of the ways people can use agents to have better business intelligence, essentially?
Yeah, that was one of the latest projects that I built for a client. They wanted to understand more about the health of their members. So they're running an educational coaching program, and they have like over 200 members. And then they wanted to be able to quickly identify when a member have a problem or they're about to churn. So they want to avoid this situation so they can jump in at any given time and help. You don't want your customer leaving your program. So what we did here is we grabbed all that information, like their Slack conversation, their interactions with the website, every time that they interact with their video courses, how long they watch it, how many they have watched, how much they are interacting with other members. Like all this information, we grabbed it and I put it into a vector database. With that information in a vector database and in a traditional database, I'm able to use an AI agent to ask questions of like how this member is doing, what was discussed last week. And also I have another agent that actively search for information in this database. Like I want to ask about Dan, how Dan is doing in the last couple of months. Do we need to be concerned about Dan? This agent is constantly searching in that database for information about the health of the member. Once something is triggered in that health AI agent, then this AI agent takes the decision and send a report to the leadership team.
So you could create, in theory, parameters around unhealth. If somebody didn't open an email in the past 3 weeks, plus didn't watch a video yet, plus has been a member for X number of months, then send a report to the team identifying those members. And then you could drill down into each member and like see exactly what they've done as you're going to like have a phone call or a email conversation.
That's correct. That's exactly what we're doing. We have an algorithm there for pretty much identifying like based on behavior analysis, like, okay, when a member is about to churn, like these are some of the events that the member has done or hasn't done. And once those things happen, then the AI agent will trigger that email and the leadership team is going to take over it.
Okay, cool. So we're breaching into CRM territory. I want to put that aside for just one moment and talk about this idea. I always thought it would be a cool brand to have like an old school Mad Men style, like Betty from HR, this like hardcore HR person that is just like making sure everybody's loving their job. And this is actually like a really big challenge for Bootstrappers is like, when's everybody's birthday? What is their healthcare plan? Like, when did they get hired? So I've seen founders start to leverage agents, and like you said, an agent is an LLM with memory. So now we're uploading the memory of like what the team does here. And it gets very sophisticated because you have a lot of information about your team members. Like you understand what they do on the help desk. You understand what they do in Slack. You could understand what the transcripts of their sales calls are, what the transcripts of their team calls are. So now all of a sudden we could create this like Betty from HR agent that is giving you regular reports about the health of your team and the engagement of your team. What are your thoughts on this?
It's exactly what we have For the members, we just feed our database with the information from our leadership team or the members of your startup, of your company. It's the same concept. It's pretty easy to do once you have like the whole system in place. We're also running like sentiment analysis for each of these conversations. So it is not like only saving semantics from the conversation. We're trying to understand what really happened in the conversation in order for understanding more about the health of this member.
From an entrepreneurial perspective, this is like gets your gears turning so ridiculously, because for years there's been this like B2B layer of SaaS software that we're always out there shopping for a project management tool or a CRM tool. And then we like morph our organization to fit onto that tool. And now all of a sudden that's a source of truth and the way people are going to be productive and get their jobs done and everything. And now in 2025, all that's getting inverted. And it's like, well, instead of paying $5,000 a year for this piece of software, why don't I go hack something together or bring in a consultant to build something that accelerates what we actually want to do and actually how we deliver value for our clients. And let's just do it custom using the toolkits that are at the base layer of our company. So we've got QuickBooks, we've got Slack, we've got email, we've got Google Docs, we've got transcripts from all of the conversations that happen. We've got all the information from all of our social media profiles. And now they're branching out into stuff that this expensive software, they just can't get around to building these features. And the idea that you could query a customer or a cohort of customers and have all this data not only presented, but analyzed and triggered at the right moments is not only like really interesting to think about. And you talked about this concept of spatial imagination. That's something that entrepreneurs have. I'm quoting you. We think in systems like, wow, like really, I've been thinking in the language of Zapier. I've been thinking in the language of Gmail or the language of HubSpot. When now I can be creative and come up with a unique system that's relevant for how my company delivers value. And I think that's it sparks a lot of ideas. It's really fascinating.
2025 is changing like the way that many businesses are operating. And before, like these companies, they didn't have option. They had to go with this big SaaS because building something from scratch or customize something for your needs, it was going to require a developer. It was going to be, painful to pay that up front. And it was going to be kind of locked because once you deploy that SaaS or like solution for your business, it's going to be difficult to tweak or make any changes. Now with these N8N tools, like, you don't need to build a whole system. You can build like multiple tools. And if you need to change anything or customize something at any given point, it's easier for someone like me just to enter there, change that, update, and keep moving forward. And that's what's happening right now.
All right, moving on to Onboarding Hero. So one of the crucial steps of any customer journey is the onboarding process. How can we use AI to make our onboarding more effective?
I have so many stories about onboardings, and I recently finished an onboarding process. It was huge. It was an SOP, 4 different chapters. Each chapter has at least like 25 to 50 different steps. And it took a while, maybe like 3 weeks to finish the whole onboarding, but it's beautiful. A process that was taking them over an hour, now it's down to 10 minutes. And this is a very cool project because onboarding usually is done by a VA, the one that receives all these benefits and the happiest person in the world when they see how fast they can onboard a member. And I had these conversations with the VA at the end of the delivery, and she was very happy. She's like, "Oh, Juan, it's like I want to thank you for doing this automation because you saved me like so much hours and right now in a week, and I can focus on other projects. I can keep helping the company moving forward to other parts." And that's what I think that I have noticed with all these automations is that like founders, we will find very good VAs. And We want them to do everything for us. We trust a lot in our VAs. We feel like there is a lot of potential, but just because we keep giving them tasks and tasks and tasks, we overload them. They get very tired, and you just don't want to hire another VA. You just want to keep working with this person. And that's where automation comes in the right place.
The final idea is, in some ways, the big dream. Like before I got on this call with you, I Googled, is OpenAI building a CRM? When I think of like some of the biggest B2B opportunities for agents, I think about the company Oracle, which is the idea that your business is at your fingertips. And I feel like agents give us the opportunity to build our own Oracle and to be able to break down the walls between the different applications we use to run our business and to have intelligent connections that, you know, you can already think there's this wall of like CRM and there's tags and that's blah, blah, blah. And then we've got this wall of finance and then there's categories and I forget what it's called in QuickBooks. And then we've got Gmail and it's the same deal. But now all of a sudden we have this idea. Now, what if we just got all of this information into an agent with memory? And now I can just Google the company and I can know intelligently what's going on. What does the horizon look like for CRM building for founders?
I think that's like pretty similar to the churn health report that we created. You're just adding all this information into a vector database or a database. Now, it still requires to use some traditional SQL tools or SQL queries to get that information out of that database.
So SQL is just a programming language that databases use?
Yes. Yeah, to extract some type of information. If you want to extract an information from a column or you want to, filter some rows into your database, you can do that. And yeah, that's pretty much like how we are extracting information from like all these databases. And that's like, I think like that's where you want to move your company, like to keep access to all this information. I think like the future is for those ones who grab all this information because we already have all this data.
Right.
Are able to store this and extract information, like collect that information. It's like, that's why like they say like, data is the new king. If we can keep like ingesting all these conversations that are happening, ingesting all the transcript calls that we are doing with our clients, put them into a database, then yeah, eventually like our AI agents are going to have access to that data and make sense of that data better than like yourself.
Yeah. So 2024, I get on a call with you. I go into my Gmail and see the conversations that we previously had. I go into my Notion and I see my notes from previous calls. And that's it. I'm basically going in cold with Juan. I might have invested in some fancy CRM that says that you read this email from my company and that you bought this product a while ago. Fast forward to 2025. I get a report from you that tells me what you've purchased, what your conversations look like, what behaviors you made on the platform, the summaries. This is the possibility for even small companies in 2025 is to have detailed reports about who you're connected to, what your social media profiles. So the possibilities are really endless in terms of empowering your team to know more about your customers and how they can serve them better.
That's correct. And once we have all this data, you're not only looking at the historic information of this person, but you're also going to make some predictions of the future of this person based on like the things that I bought, based on the conversation I had with you. And that's like what is coming. Like now in our next call, you're going to be able to bring new type of questions that are more aligned to the things that I have been doing for the last 6 months. Or you will be able to understand what are my needs better than my competitor because you already had that information. And if we use that information to create products, to create services, to create, whatever other thing that you feel like as a business owner, we can do to improve the life of the person in front of me, then yeah, that's the new way that we're going to be doing business with this data.
There's a lot of workflow nerds that I've been hanging around with. And I'm thinking back to a conversation I had like 8 months ago. And we're in a van, bunch of founders, and there was a comment made. And the comment was, I've seen a lot of founders save money with AI, but I've yet to see a ton of examples of founders making money with AI. But I think you started to show us some ways that founders are actually generating revenues. I'm wondering if you could give us your general sense of that distinction and what are the opportunities for actually generating revenues with AI?
If we want to say like founders making money with AI, so I think like I can put myself as an example.
Boom!
I created my agency. I'm doing like a lot of work with AI. I'm selling those services there. And yeah, that's like the first person that comes into mind like right now. But of course, like, let's go and talk about my clients. So I have these clients at like 100% of their leads are coming from LinkedIn. And it is because of these automations that I have created for this client that, now they are finally getting more members into their program. Pretty much because like they are able to have more outreach. They are able to engage with the potential members. The potential members see a very active profile in LinkedIn. And I think that has helped tremendously to spread the message that they are trying to do for their members. So that's one. For the other one that they are in the educational business, one of the things is that, yeah, we are not there yet, but I feel that with once we finalize the health report, churn risk report, business intelligence, they are able to prevent these members to leave the program. They are going to be able to be on top of that. I think that's like great for them because it's all going to be like paying off like by probably like saving 2 or 3 members every 6 months. So I think that a lot of founders are making their ROI when they're applying these automations into their business.
Exciting stuff, Juan. Where can listeners get in touch with you?
They can write me to my email. That's juanra@flowgrama.com, or they can just search for flowgrama.com and book a call with me.
Juan, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Dan, for the opportunity, and have a good day.